Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday on a 3-day weekend. I'm sure everybody's excited about having 3 days or 4 if you took a day off, which we see that a lot. This week on our live Facebook.
You got it right this time. You didn't call it a podcast. Facebook Live video.
Yeah. Facebook Live video. We're going to recap last week's events because we were at 4 different events last week. We're going to give you a preview on what's coming up in September. We're going to talk about the NHRDA World Finals VIP giveaway. And then we're going to try to give you a little bit of product knowledge about the FR3, one of our really special products that we have. We want to answer any questions. You can post questions on Facebook, and we will be glad to answer those. And even the rest of this week, if you want to post them, we'll bring them in to next week's discussion and try to go through them. I've got Eric with me. He's going to give us a rundown on what happened last weekend.
So last weekend, Great American Truck Show in Texas. That's always a good time. But we had 2 big events, the Outlaw Diesel Super Series, Shide Extravaganza in Indiana. That's always a great event, big turnout. A couple winners. Pro Street, Dustin Jackson took that home. Pro Mod, we had Larson Miller in the Save the Racks truck. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. And then in the Pro Dragster class, Wade Moody took that home. So we got Larson and Wade, both sponsored drivers, by the way. And then we had in Montana, NHRDA Big Sky Truck Fest. A couple winners out there. We had Jared in the Pro Stock class, Chad in the Pro Street, and then Super Street, we had Mark took home some victories there. And that was last weekend. And of course, we had Kyle down in West Virginia. So busy weekend, but coming up in September, we got a lot going on, Chris. On the 14th and 15th, we got the next Outlaw Diesel Super Series event. That's the Hardway Sunshine Showdown at the Emerald Coast Dragway in Holt, Florida. That'll be a good time. You can see the crew at Hardway Performance, the nice Nova that they got down there.
Do we have tickets for that race?
We'll be there. Of course, we got tickets.
Okay.
For a sponsor.
Email us. Email Kyle at lubricationspecialties.com, and we'll see if we can get you some tickets for that. Any of the NHRDA races that are coming up, if anybody's in those areas and you want tickets, let us know. We'll see what we can do. No promises, but sometimes we get lucky.
Mm-hmm. And before we go any further, just a reminder, if you guys got questions, post them. We'll be answering those later and giving away some free product. But just another thing about our event down in Florida in September, if you guys get there early for the race, which is 14th and 15th, there's a really cool thing going on September 10th and 11th. It's called the Hard Coast Horsepower Lab. And basically it's a classroom setting put on by Hardware Performance and Suncoast Transmission. Check it out. You can gain a lot of knowledge from those guys. So check that out if you're going to be down there early. And then finally, last weekend in September, we got the Ultimate Call Out Challenge qualifier at Wagler in Indiana. So that's what's coming up in September.
The Ultimate Call Out Challenge, is that the one where LeVon?
Yeah, LeVon, he's three-peated, so he's trying to do that again next year. That's won't be till early 2019, but they're already getting started for that. So that's the big event.
And for those of you that don't know, LeVon Miller started off using our FR3, which is the product we're going to be talking about today, but that evolved into our fuel additives and then racing oils, transmission fluids, which we developed specifically with him in mind, but we wanted to open it up to everybody. And since then, we've gotten some great, great results from it. So we will see what we can do with those. If you have any questions, call in, and we'll be glad to explain to you. Go on our website. You can see where we're at with the racing oils, why we developed them. If you have questions, again, email or call. We'll be glad to answer them.
And as we mentioned last week, we had the NHRDA event in Montana. The next event is going to be in October, and that is actually the World Finals. That'll be in Ennis, Texas, at the Texas Motorplex, October 12th and 13th. So the grand finale there. And one thing, if you may not know, we're actually giving away some VIP getaways for that race. And it's everything you need. So we're giving away 2 VIP tickets, plane tickets, hotel, rental car. I mean, it's everything you need to have a good time. That giveaway entry is going to be ending on Monday. So make sure you get entered in that for this weekend. Check it out. It's hotshotSecret.com/NHRDA.
And how are we going to be picking that person? A number generating. So we'll put all the numbers on. We'll use a computer generator to come up with a winner. And we'll be announcing that next Friday. We may or may not do the whole thing live, depending on how it all works out. But one way or another, next Friday, we'll be announcing who the winner is.
Yeah, so if you haven't registered, try to get that done this weekend, and then hopefully you can hear your name as a winner next week.
I'll be at the mining show, at the International Mining Show in Las Vegas next week, so somebody else will be filling in for me, probably Eric and Kyle. So they'll be announcing the winner. I'll be down there looking at the big dozers and shovels and all the
Having a good time.
Yeah, all the fun diesel things.
Another reminder on our website, if you go on there right now, we got a special promo that may be ending, I believe, today. So it's spend so much, get 2 1-quart bottles of Stiction. So definitely take advantage if you need anything right now.
Absolutely. And then tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., CarFix is going to be on Velocity Channel, and they're going to be talking about our diesel winter anti-gel. And when we developed the winter anti-gel, we brought in samples from all over, and then we started mixing different, different pour point suppressants and wax anti-settling agents to see which ones could move the needle the most. We believe that we've come up with the best recipe or formula that can be had. So they're going to be talking about that tomorrow on CarFix on the Velocity Channel. So we would encourage you to watch that and learn more about that. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the FR3.
Yeah, FR3.
That's one of our flagship products. We've talked about the Diesel Extreme and the Stiction Eliminator. And just to give you a little background on how we came up with this, because it is kind of a fun story. The original Stiction Eliminator formula we made for Navistar, for International Truck and Engine. And then as it became more developed, I thought, well, how can we make this even better? So Kevin Adams is our chemical engineer. He's our head of our vice president of research and development. We started bringing in products from all over the world, literally from all over the world. We brought products in from Israel, from Japan, from South Korea, and then all the companies in the U.S. And the goal was to remove Stiction 30% better than the old formula, but also to reduce wear and give you more friction fighting properties inside of it. Well, as we did that, not only did we meet those goals, we were able to reduce the wear by 62%. So we wanted to figure out what would be a good follow-up product to that. The FR3 is what we developed, and we ended up using 3 patented products. So that's where the name FR3 came from. Again, we're marketing geniuses here. So, we needed a name, FR3, friction reducer, 3 patented products. And the idea was to use 2 different esters, and what those will do is bring all the additives into little nooks and crevices inside the metal to make them more slippery, and then to use a nano lubricant, which will create a barrier to the metal, breaking down the other pieces of metal. So what I want to do is, well, first let me explain how we use the product. Once you've cleaned out the system with the Stiction Eliminator, the next oil change or the next few oil changes, you're going to want to use the FR3. And what that's going to do is, first of all, give you better fuel economy, around 5%. We've seen results as high as 10%. But it's also going to give you more horsepower. It does increase the horsepower 5%, and that's been proven on a dyno. As a matter of fact, many dynos. So it is a phenomenal product, more power, better fuel economy. And what we're doing is making the whole inside of the system work better. It's more slippery. It's wearing out less, where normally you're going to wear out a normal rate. This is going to be 42% less than that. We use Shell Rotel as our baseline. And what we ran was called a G133. I'm going to pull a whiteboard over here because it requires a little bit of pictures. Okay, so what the G133 is, that's an ASTM test. That looks a little bit crooked, so I know you haven't started drinking yet for the weekend. We don't want you to start freaking out. Let's see if we can fix that. What the G133 is, it's a pin-on plate, so it's going to rub back and forth over an 8-hour period, say 40,000 times with an exact amount of pressure on the pin. So each formula, and we ran dozens and dozens and dozens of different formulas. And what we're looking for is which one brought the most metal out, which one made the biggest gouge in the metal. So you've got a pin on the plate that looks like this, and then the plate's here. So as it's moving back and forth, it's going to start to create a groove. And the way they measure this, it looks like this. This is the laboratory result that we get back. They show us an actual microscopic view of that plate. And what they're measuring is the millimeters squared. So they're measuring how much area did you gouge out of there. And they're measuring that in millimeters squared. So we use Shell Rotel as our baseline because Shell Rotel is the #1 selling diesel oil in the country, maybe the world. And where they came in at, it was 0.0835. So that's how many millimeters squared, how big the gouge was. By the time we reformulated, and came up with what we came up with the FR3 and the stiction eliminator, we were able to bring it down to 0.0314. So just to give you an idea of what that looks like, our gouge looked like this. In other words, we had 42% less wear than just oil by itself. It was a phenomenal result. And what that means is, in essence, your engine and the moving parts inside the engine will last twice as long as they did before if you're using FR3 and stiction eliminator. Now, the reason we like the stiction eliminator in there once a year, twice a year, is the new engines are really efficient. And what happens is eventually they start to shear the oil and break it down and leave a residue behind. Once that residue turns like an orangey color, the next step is it turns black and it starts to gum things up and it creates what we call sticky friction. The stiction eliminator removes that completely. So, again, like I said, a couple video,
Facebook Live,
a couple of those before. The idea was if you were to go in there and look at that engine before and after, before you would see a residue everywhere, after you would see a completely clean engine. It would literally look like a brand new engine. Now, after that, how do you keep it looking that way? Well, it's to use the FR3. It's, half the price of the stiction eliminator in terms of treatment cost. So you should be able to, economically treat your engine and keep it in good shape. Now the rings and the cylinder walls are the easiest place to see this, but there's also other areas like the camshaft, the cam lobes, the lifters, oil pump. A lot of the high pressure oil pumps have a lot of really severe duty type of metal on metal areas. So the friction reducer removes some of that and gives you a little bit less friction, a little bit more movability, which is, I think, where we get our increase in horsepower. So if things are, say they have a certain amount of drag, well, if you take some of that drag away, you get more efficiency, which gives you more horsepower, more fuel economy. So that would be the overall idea of it.
So, yeah, I was just gonna say we're not talking about just engine oil. So FR3, you can use it in differentials, power steering. If you got hydraulic fluid, it's going to be fine in any of those applications.
Yeah, the FR3 is safe in all oils. One of the things to understand is that a lot of the additive packages that go into an oil are metals. So a lot of times if you unbalance that metal, which is why I think a lot of oil companies and a lot of manufacturers don't want you to add anything to the engine, because there are things you can put in there that are dangerous, like chlorinated paraffins. There are people that sell additives on the shelf that will make the inside more slippery, but then they become corrosive. So it's short-term gain, long-term loss. But with the FR3, it's nanocarbon and ester. So it's oil and carbon. Your engine is completely made out of carbon, and the oil package is oil. So there's nothing at all in there that could cause any damage whatsoever. So it's completely safe. One of the areas that I've seen the most impact, besides the engine, is the power steering pump. And it's a phenomenal product. It only takes literally 2 tablespoons. It's unbelievable how much difference it can make. We've taken cars here in the parking lot that were squealing. I mean, just, when you turn your steering wheel all the way over and it makes that squealing noise because it's, it's overstressing the power steering pump. They'll do that normally when they get worn out. we could put in literally a shot glass full of FR3 and all of a sudden it just quiets it down like that and it works better. Another place where we've seen a tremendous help on that is people have put large tires on their truck. Your power steering pump is engineered for the size tires that the manufacturer made it. So as soon as you increase the size of those tires by 20, 25, 35%, it takes 20, 25, 35% more power to get that to move. Well, that pump wasn't made for that. But as soon as you put the friction reducer in there, all of a sudden it's able to do it a lot easier. So I would encourage you to try it, post the results on Facebook, and let everybody else know what you're doing, because R&D is it's a tough area because it's all done with lab testing. When we get to the real world part, it's almost easier to work with the people out in the field because you can give us more insight as to what's going on, as well as sharing it with other viewers. They're able to see it and hear it firsthand. So if I'm driving a Cummins truck and I put 24-inch tires on it, I'd rather hear from somebody else that's already done that than to read an ASTM test that shows me this. I'd rather hear that there's 10 other people that did this and it helped all of them. Okay, well, that gives me a higher level of confidence. And in reality, it's probably a better way to look at it.
Yeah, and if you haven't tried it, now's a good time. We're going to be giving away a couple bottles. So if you got questions, post them. We'll pick a few people and send them out. So stay tuned afterwards. Hopefully you'll get a message from us and we'll have some information from you. But Chris, I have this thing's probably 20 years old. It's a little push mower. And this thing it's a real piece of work. I used to, every time I go out, try to mow my yard, start this thing up, I'd have to yank on it 15 times to get started. And so eventually I got a little tired of that. So I'm going to try some FR3. So I took no more than an ounce, put it in, ran it that time I mowed my yard. Next time I go out next week, maybe it was a couple weeks later because grass is pretty tall. Anyway, so next time I go out, go to start it. One pull, this thing started, runs like a champ. So it's incredible. Just
I did the same thing. You would think that since we have a whole manufacturing plant full of additives, this would always be on our mind.
Yeah.
But when the weekend hits, my brain shuts off and I go into homeowner mode. So in the spring, I was doing the same. I had chainsaw and I was out trimming trees and cleaning up debris from the yard from the spring storms. Mm-hmm. And it was the same way. I had a Husqvarna chainsaw and I'm pulling on it. And I'm thinking, oh, this is driving me nuts. Should I take the carburetor apart and clean it? Should I clean the spark plug? And I thought, wait a minute. I went on the shelf. Luckily, I had some FR3 on the shelf. And I literally put a capful in the gas.
That's all it takes.
2 pulls. Not only was it running, but it was running with a lot more power. I wish I could have quantified it. So one of the things that came from that is we came back to R&D and we said, okay, let's start running tests with this into cycle oil and just see how much does it move the mark. And we're in the process of doing that. Finding dynos that run chainsaws is a much more difficult thing because, who's going to do that? Yeah. But they are out there and we're working on it. Another place where we've been testing is in zero-turn radius mowers. ZTRs are the rage right now, and which anybody that's driven a old-style mower and then switched over to a ZTR will never go back because it takes twice as long to mow your grass. But we did take a ZTR to a dyno, and they ran a dyno on the ZTR. We weren't able to check the power because there was just no way to do that with this dyno, but they were able to check the fuel economy, and it had a 3% increase in fuel economy. So we know that we're able to move the mark. The question is how much more horsepower. So that's the next phase of testing is hydraulic oils, tractor fluids. We want to see how much can we move it. One of my hopes is if you look at like a PTO on a tractor, say you've got a bush hog running or even a backhoe running off it like mine, can you get a 10 or 15% increase in horsepower or even a 5% increase in horsepower? If you go to buy a tractor and you're looking at a 45 horsepower tractor versus a 48 horsepower, well, that's a huge difference, or 50 horsepower. So if we can do that with a $10 bottle of additive, that's a huge movement. So that's our next, we're working on that all this fall. We're going to be doing testing in ZTRs, tractors, PTOs, and hydraulic efficiencies.
Yeah, if you like to go fast, it's cheap horsepower. So I'd love for you, Chris, to tell another story of yours, but go online, read the reviews, see what people just like yourself are saying about the products. But we get a lot of customers that are hot shotters, RV owners. And if you don't mind, Chris, tell us your story about your RV.
I tell you, I'm an RVer. I've been RVing. I've got 6 kids. So our only way to take a vacation was to camp. So we started off with tents, moved to pop-up campers, pull behind. So we have been through the whole spectrum of RVs. Anybody that has an RV that has a V10, you know that those things seem to be extremely underpowered. You know, you're pulling a 12,000 pound house up the road with a V10 gas engine. So we decided to try Class B one year. We had it here, we used it for the company, and it was literally driving me crazy because you couldn't get going up a hill more than 35 or 45 miles an hour. You know, it starts off at 65 and it just slows down, and then all of a sudden the semi truck with blinkers on is going around me, and I'm just getting really frustrated. So first chance I got, I pulled off and I put the FR3 into the engine oil and in the transmission, which we haven't tested it for that.
Don't do that yet.
We've done a few tests and there's no harm so far, but it hasn't been fully tested. I don't see why it would hurt the transmission. We do have a transmission stiction eliminator, but in reality, the FR3 is probably fine in a transmission. We just don't guarantee that because we haven't gone through the whole battery of tests. But that RV was now moving at, it seemed like it was a difference to me, and it wasn't scientific, but it was a difference between a 6-cylinder and an 8-cylinder engine. I mean, you literally could tell the difference within 15 minutes. This was going down through Kentucky, and all of a sudden I'm going up the hills at 55 miles an hour, and I'm not losing power. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, this was like night and day. I mean, it was literally like night and day before and after. So we want to start a whole string of testing with RVs. Now I've got a diesel pusher, and it was the same way with the diesel pusher. You know, the other diesel pusher I had didn't have all the DPF stuff on it. And it was easy to put it on cruise control, 55 or 65, and you can just stay there. It's same exact model, but it's got the DPF, and put it on 65 miles an hour. As soon as I hit the hills, it dropped down to 55, 45, and then it lost the cruise control because it couldn't maintain it. Went down to 35, same thing. We're going, you know, semi-trucks were going around me, and it was extremely frustrating. Pulled off. In this case, I put the stiction eliminator in, and I put in the diesel extreme. And all of a sudden, I'm rolling again at 55 and maintaining 55 and 65 the whole way. I'm just thinking, wow, this is, anybody that drives this is going to see a difference. This is really where we need to concentrate our efforts. I came back and told Kyle, the marketing manager, we need to start an RV initiative because anybody that owns an RV is going through the same thing I went through. You really want to try that. So if you have a gas RV, you know, start with the stiction eliminator. If you have a diesel, start with the stiction eliminator and the diesel extreme, and then switch over to the FR3 on your second oil change. You will see a difference. I mean, you'll know a difference. I actually sent out, now it's another story. Let me see, how are we doing on time? We're okay. I got one more story. I had a customer service call come in. I monitor if you send in on our template on the website, you know, hey, what product do I need to use? I don't answer them all. We have a customer service team that answers them, but I do read them if I have time. So this weekend I was reading them this one weekend, and there was a person that had an RV, and they said, hey, I've got an RV. I'd like to try your product. Which ones do I need? I thought, well, here's a perfect chance to try it. So I emailed the person, and he was in Wisconsin, and he said he was getting ready to go to Arizona. I said, how's your history with this? Do you keep records? He says, oh, I keep all the mileage data. I've got everything. I said, I will send you some stiction eliminator and some diesel extreme just to try it and report back to me what you found. He said my lifetime overall average was 8.6 miles per gallon. And he said that's consistent every time I run back and forth between Wisconsin and Arizona. He said I put it in, and he says I went up to 9.6 miles per gallon, and I absolutely could see a difference on all the hills. He said it was more enjoyable to drive. It wasn't as frustrating. He said this is a difference that you can definitely tell and see on the mileage as far as the fuel economy. So again, it validated what I'd already known. And what we're trying to do now is put scientific data behind it, because we don't, even though those stories are good, we don't want to, you know, rest our hat on that. We want to obviously present scientific findings. Yep. So if you have an RV, try it. Also, several of the people here are motorcycle enthusiasts. So the idea came, let's take a Harley, put it on a dyno, and check it. We put a Harley on a dyno, and we got a 5% increase in fuel economy. And it took, and I'm not a motorcycle guy, so I don't know all the ins and outs. It took 8 ounces of FR3, and he said that 5% solid increase in horsepower. What was interesting is that's a $10 bottle of additive. Yeah. Okay. He said, and the fellow that did this told me that he had paid $500 for a tune on his Harley to get 5% increase in horsepower. He said, so to get, 5% equal that for $10 is a great bargain. So if you have a Harley Davidson or any motorcycle, try it. It's worth the money. If you have an RV, try it. Report back what you find. Again, we're in the beginning stages of testing these products out in those types of vehicles. So all of your data does help. We read every single testimonial. We read all those test results. The more details you can give, the better. I know when you're doing that, when you're filling those things out, you're thinking, oh, do they really care, how much smoke or how I felt? We do, because it's not that we're gonna put a scientific study together based on what you said, but it gives us an indication of different things to look for. So we do appreciate that feedback. And one other thing that you need to know is we have a money-back guarantee on everything we make. And it's not the kind of money-back guarantee where we run you through the ringer and give you a hard time. I have literally had people send me a text photo of the receipt and their address, and we'll send you the money back. So if you try it and you want to send me an email and say, what, I tried it, didn't help me, it's no problem. We'll give you your money back. It's perfectly fine. We stand behind our products. We believe in our products. I would rather have a customer for life than an upset person over a bottle of additive. So, feel free to try it and not be nervous about it. Is this really going to work? Try it. It'll work. If it doesn't, email me, text me, let me know. Just send us a copy of the receipt. Again, we're not going to say, cut out the logo, put it in an envelope with a 4-page notarized letter, and then we'll send you. Nothing like that. Just let us. We just want to verify that you actually did buy the product, that you didn't get the results you wanted, and we'll take care of it.
And we appreciate the feedback, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, because even if it's bad, maybe it didn't help you like you thought it would. Well, that gives us feedback that we can look at. We may ask you a couple more questions, try to figure out why that may be. But good, bad, indifferent, give us feedback. Let us know what you're thinking. All
data is good data. All scientific data is good. So we, as we develop more products, every little hint gives us an idea. Okay, this doesn't work in that way. Well, maybe it's not doing this action. It's working over here on this action. So again, all that data is good. We really appreciate it. And believe it or not, this whole company was built up on, bootstrap type of mentality. We built everything on talking to people at truck shows, races, all that feedback comes back, and then we get to work on the next line of products. Matter of fact, everything we've built has been based on what you've told us. It's just, that's the way it is. I mean, I don't know any other way to do it. So it's not like we had a focus group somewhere saying, hey, you should come up with this product. We're at a truck show, we're at a race, or I talked to a truck driver, and he says, this is the problem I'm having with my Volvo. The hydraulic lifters are sticking, and we need a product that fixes that. We come back, we start testing, and we start moving on it. So, we are I don't know what that's called, where all of your customer base is involved in what you're doing, but that's who we are. That's how we built the company. That's how we are where we are today, and we appreciate it. We appreciate every customer. We appreciate every distributor, every retailer, all of our partners that we advertise with, like WLW, WSM, Branton. It's a big family. We look at this as you're part of our family, they're part of our family, and we're going to grow all this together.
And talking about customer feedback, if you guys have been on our website the past 30 days or so, you might have seen that we were giving away free samples of a gasoline additive that we've been working on, tweaking, trying to get right. And in large part, that was due to the feedback of the customers. People asking us, do we have stuff for gas engines? Of course, the oil additives, transmission products, fine, but for the gasoline itself, we didn't have anything. So that's a big reason why we started working on that, was from customers like yourself.
And the reason we didn't have a gasoline additive, even though we've been asked for this for 5 years, is we only want to make a product that is head and shoulders above everything else, or it solves a problem. So we didn't want to make a commodity product like another power steering fluid just to leverage our name. We wanted things that would be, out of the park. Unless it could be a home run, we don't want to do it. So in the past, we have tested different gas additives, and honestly, we really couldn't do that much better than what was out there. And the reason is there's billions of dollars spent on gas additives and gas additive development because it is such a huge market. So trying to beat that curve was a lot harder. Now, recently, in the last year, we have gotten several new technologies that do seem to have promise. And that was part of our test. It's like, okay, maybe we do have something that's, 25 to 50% better than everything else on the market, so let's test it. Now, when you do scientific testing, there's two ways to go about this. You can do all the ASTM tests like we did here, and you can run through batteries, and that's considered legitimate because it's in a perfect environment. Temperatures, pressures, everything are exact. The other way to do it is to have a wide scale test where you make up for where you make up for the indiscrepancies with numbers, hundreds of people. And you'll see this with drug tests. Like you'll see, we gave this many people a placebo, and we gave this many people the pill, the real medication, and we were able to see a result. That's a legitimate way to go to market and to analyze data. So we try to do it with the going to you and asking you to run tests. And so far, the test data is showing us that we may have something that is considerably better than everything else anybody has ever done. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be revealing more of those details, and you'll be able to learn more about it. Yeah. I think that's about all we've got for today. Is there any questions, Kyle, that we need to address?
We got a lot of nice comments we appreciate. Jeremiah Heidel says the Diesel Extreme has been great. He's got 38s on his F250, so he's going to go ahead and try some of the FR3 in his power steering as you recommended for the oversized
38-inch tires?
38s on an F250.
Yeah, Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremiah.
Yeah. Put some FR3 and report back to us. Right now, you should have to take two hands to turn that wheel. After the FR3's in there, you should be able to do it with two fingers. Let me know if I'm right. And I'm telling you, it should be a huge difference. Let us know.
Jeremiah's responded, said he bought his 2001 7.3 Power Stroke last summer. Got a great deal because it wouldn't rev. I checked and changed several parts, decided to run some Diesel Extreme, and the truck ran a lot better, but still not right. Went to a shop because I had exhausted everything I knew to check. They found the problem to be a tank full of gasoline. Cemented in my mind how good this product is because it would make the truck almost run right on gasoline.
Yeah, one of the things for everybody to know is that gasoline and diesel fuel, even though they're both petroleum products, they work opposites. So more octane destroys cetane. The more cetane, you're destroying octane. And a lot of times in the past, not that this would be like a best practices thing, but a little bug flying around me. One of the things that people will call and say, we've got gasoline, I got a little bit of gasoline in my tank, how do I fix it? We'll dope it up with a lot of Diesel Extreme. The octane or the cetane in the Diesel Extreme will destroy the octane in the gasoline and make it run. Again, it's not something that you'd want to do today, but if it ever happens, we've done it hundreds of times, and it does seem to fix the problem until you run that tank through and then put diesel fuel in it and then you're back on.
Jeremiah also just said he's two-handed for sure now on his 38, so he's going to give that a try.
All right. It's going to be exciting. Next Friday, we'll update you on what Jeremiah found out.
Chris Gott said, I love your guys' stuff. Use it all the time. Thanks, Chris. Chris Kemper, keep it up, guys. Great products with great people. Appreciate it, Chris. Says he doesn't use Rotella anymore. He was speaking to your test earlier. And we got a question from Chris Kemper saying, when will you start making oils for use in gasoline engines?
We are working on that right now. Again, it's one of those things where the gasoline oil, engine oil, to be certified, they put the spec like this. So could I make a gasoline oil that's like this? I sure can. The problem is it won't have the SJ or the whatever the latest spec is.
SN Plus, I think it is.
SN Plus?
Yeah.
Okay, so the SN Plus, they're saying you can only put this much zinc, this much phosphorus. So they don't really give you the room to improve on that oil. It doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means that they're not giving us the opportunity to keep in that spec. So that makes it more difficult. But we do have a PAO oil that is specified for gas. And if you ever want to run, like 50,000 miles or 100,000 miles on an oil change, we can do that. And that goes with a Franz filter to keep it clean. But that'll be next week. So the week after, we'll go into that. But believe it or not, we have people that run 200,000 miles on our oil changes and still have really good oil analysis. I mean, it can be done. It just has to be for people that are really on top of it and they don't have a nervousness about them. Is that all we got?
A couple shout outs from Mel Robinson. He's one of our local sponsored racers, saying FR3 is amazing. He uses it in his cars and his race car. And our friend Jason Schultz chimed in from Beer Money Bowling. Say hi.
All right. Well, hey to everybody out there.
I got one last thing, Chris, and I don't know what made me just think of this, but we'll talk about this in a couple weeks. But just a reminder out there for everybody, especially folks that live in colder states. September's right around the corner. We got October coming up, so that's going to be the time to start looking at your winter anti-gel. Make sure you don't get gelled up. Again, that's a couple weeks out, but I just wanted to get that on everybody's mind.
And we'll explain that next time about why it's important to start treating early.
Yeah.
Because it really is better to get ahead of the game than to wait till you're having problems. And the one last thing that I'd like to mention is the FR3 is available at all Tractor Supply stores. Each retailer puts in different products based on what the sales are, and then it grows. So we're in O'Reilly's, FR3's in O'Reilly's, the Stiction Eliminator, and the Diesel Extreme. Tractor Supply has our TBN Boost, our Stiction Eliminator, our Diesel Extreme, and EDT. And then AutoZone has the EDT, Diesel Extreme, and Stiction Eliminator.
And just go to our website. We have a where to buy map. Just plug in your zip code.
Yeah,
It'll come up with whether it's dealers, retailers, anybody around you that's got the product.
And we do have a dealer network. That's a good
Yeah,
point. And the reason we sell dealers is they have the ability to carry all the products, like our diesel oils.
And they're the experts.
They are. I mean, they understand how the products work. So, the retail setting, you've got 30 seconds to kind of understand, and the only opportunity I have to explain it is on the label. Mm-hmm. So that's a much tougher thing to do. But at a dealer, if you go to one of our certified dealers, they're able to explain to you not only how it works, but why it works, and they can give you anecdotal evidence. Hey, we've got 3 people that have the exact same truck as you, and this is what they found out. So they're able to give you a lot more feedback, and that's why we, nurture along our dealer network, because they are really the go-to person for the knowledge base.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's all we've got.
Okay.
Enjoy your weekend, and don't work too hard. Have a good time on Monday, and we will see you next Friday.